All right, so imagine for a second that the phone in your pocket, right? It's not just a piece of glass and silicon. Imagine it is a portal. And I don't mean that in some poetic, oh, it connects us all kind of way. I mean, what if every time you open Instagram or X or YouTube, you're not just looking at a screen, you're actually stepping into a fully functioning, multidimensional universe
Yeah.
with its own laws of physics, its own gravity, and its own
I
consequences.
mean, that sounds like the plot of a heavy sci-fi novel, doesn't it?
Right, like The Matrix or something?
Yeah, The Matrix, Tron. But if you actually dig into the source material we're covering today, that description might be more accurate and honestly a lot more useful than we might think.
Exactly. And that's what we're doing. We're diving into this truly mind-bending theory from a creator at JackSheTube. It's called The Physics of Social Karma, and I have to say it completely reframes how I look at a like button. But I gotta ask right off the bat, the physics of social karma, are we just using fancy science words to, make scrolling through memes sound smart?
That is a fair skepticism. And look, the author is clear this is a framework. We aren't saying your phone is literally a quantum particle accelerator,
Okay.
at least not in the way CERN is. But think about how hard it is to explain the algorithm. It's invisible, it's powerful, and it absolutely shapes our reality. Physics is actually the best language we have to describe invisible forces that control how things move.
That's a fair point. So the core premise here is that this social karma can be mapped onto an 11-dimensional framework. It's pulling ideas from string theory, M theory, but for human behavior.
Right. So instead of just looking at the cat video or the political rant,
Mhm.
we're looking at the where and the how.
Hmm.
The theory argues that our digital interactions are quantum units of action, and they generate something called a karma loop.
So our mission today is to unpack this whole social universe. We need to figure out how we as users are piloting our little ships through these 11 dimensions. And I really want to know if I'm flying my ship correctly or if I'm just crashing into asteroids all day.
I don't know, most of us are crashing, unfortunately. But that's why this breakdown is so helpful. The source material layers it out really well. We can start with the foundation, dimensions 1 through 4.
Okay, let's get into it. The source confirms dimensions 1, 2, and 3 are, well, they're exactly what we think they are. Length, width, height.
Yes, this is the hardware. This is the realm of your physical body, where your thumb actually touches the glass screen. It's the chair you're sitting in right now.
Simple enough. But then we hit dimension 4, which the model calls time. But it makes a very specific distinction. It calls it causality.
Right, because time can just feel like a clock ticking. But in this model, dimension 4 is the linear sequence where your past actions directly affect your future. Think of it like a domino chain. Dimension 4 is the law that says day 2 is built entirely out of the debris of day 1.
So dimensions 1 through 4 are the playground. They're the stage where everything happens. But the theory argues the software running the whole universe, the stuff that actually controls what happens on that stage, that exists in the higher hidden dimensions.
And that's where it gets really, really interesting. We move into what the source calls the internal triad. Dimensions 5, 6, and 7. This is like the engine room of the individual.
Let's start with dimension 5. The source calls this emotion. But not just feelings in a, squishy therapy sense. It says very explicitly, emotion is frequency.
This is a crucial pivot. In string theory, the extra dimensions are described as being curled up or hidden, but they determine how particles behave. Here, emotion is that hidden dimension.
Wait, hold on. Emotion is frequency. I mean, that sounds cool, but what does it actually mean in the mechanics of this theory?
Think of it like a radio dial, or maybe a tuning fork. If you strike a tuning fork to the note of anger, it physically vibrates the air around it at a specific hertz, right?
Mhm.
This theory argues your phone is a receiver. So if you are vibrating at a low frequency, say irritation or jealousy, you are literally tuning your personal hardware to pick up other signals on that same band.
So if I'm in a bad mood, I'm basically listening to Anger FM.
Exactly. And because you're attuned to that station, you literally cannot hear the broadcast from Joy FM. You attract the outrage posts because you're broadcasting the signal that requests them.
The source has a really cool example here about social media hooks. The first 3 seconds of a video that just grabs you.
Right. Why does a hook work so well? It's not just the image, which is dimensions 1 to 3. It's an instant transfer of frequency from dimension 5. The theory argues that high-frequency emotions, like joy or curiosity, create expansion, connection. But low-frequency emotions like anger or fear, cause contraction. They create traps.
So when I feel that spike of outrage at a headline, that isn't just content. That is a low-frequency vibration that is actively interacting with my reality.
And because it's a dimension, it's not subjective in this model. It's a quantifiable force. It leaks into the physical world. But we'll get to that leakage thing later on.
Okay. Moving to dimension 6, memory.
And the source says memory is karma. This part is fascinating. Think of memory here, not just as neurons firing in your brain, but as a universal database. The source compares it to water. It's fluid, it's flowing, and it stores information. It's like the cloud storage of the social universe.
I like that water analogy. So every interaction leaves a trace, a footprint in this storage.
Precisely. It stores your karma footprint. It's the database that the algorithm and the universe checks before it serves you your next reality. It remembers what frequencies you tuned into yesterday in Dimension 5, and it uses that to build your timeline for today in Dimension 4.
Which brings us to the most critical part of this individual engine, Dimension 7, action.
This is the bridge. Dimension 7 represents kinetic energy. It's where the abstract, the feelings and memories meet the concrete world.
The source lays out a specific formula here that I think we need to just tattoo on our foreheads. It is emotions plus memory action karma.
That's the core algorithm. Your frequency, which is emotion, combines with your database, which is memory, to produce kinetic energy, which is action.
And here's the kicker that really made me stop and think. The source points out that in the social universe, a like, or a share, isn't just a passive click. It's a quantum unit of action.
Yes. Think about the word action. In physics, action requires energy. When you double-tap a screen, you are expending kinetic energy. You're spending a tiny unit of your life force to amplify a signal.
Whoa, that puts a lot of weight on a double tap.
It does. You are voting for the reality you want to see more of. You are spending your kinetic energy to amplify one specific frequency over all the others.
So let's play this out. If I'm doom scrolling and I'm feeling angry, that's Dimension 5.
Yeah.
And I'm recalling all the other times I was mad at this politician, that's Dimension 6. And then I angrily comment, that's Dimension 7.
You're building a machine. You are manufacturing a very specific type of karma. And that takes us out of the individual experience and into the collective structure. Dimensions 8 through 11.
This is where we go from me to we. Dimension 8 is the network. The source says karma is network.
Imagine gravity. In the physical universe, massive objects create gravity that pulls things toward them. In the social universe, your network, your relationships, your followers, your connections, that creates what the source calls social gravity.
I love that term, social gravity. It perfectly explains why some people just seem to have this pull, this orbit around them.
Exactly. It determines your position in the web. But because this is an 8th dimensional structure, it involves something called non-local interaction.
Okay, non-local interaction, you're losing me a bit. That sounds like quantum physics again.
It is similar. In plain English, it just means you aren't isolated. A change in one node, one person, can affect the whole network instantly. Think of a spider web. If a fly lands on the far edge, the spider in the center feels that vibration immediately. You are connected to the web. If you emit a massive frequency wave from Dimension 5, the network in Dimension 8 carries it to everyone else.
Which leads perfectly into Dimension 9, frequency extended, or vibration.
This is where we look at the tools we use to transmit that vibration.
Yeah.
And the source makes a fascinating point about emojis.
Yes, this was one of my favorite parts. It says emojis aren't just cute pictures, they are frequency tools.
Right. Because think about it. Text is flat. It's just dimensions 1 and 2. It has no tone. An emoji injects Dimension 5, emotion, into the message to tune its karmic gravity.
So the passive-aggressive thumbs-up emoji carries a very different vibrational resonance than the heart emoji, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. We've all felt the chill of a period at the end of a text where there shouldn't be one. That is frequency tuning. And this dimension explains viral spread. The source calls it contagion.
So things don't go viral because they're true or logical.
No, content goes viral because of vibrational resonance. It matches the frequency of the collective. If the collective is vibrating at outrage, an outrageous post spreads instantly because everyone is already tuned to that station. It's not logic, it's physics.
That is terrifyingly accurate. It explains why arguing with facts online almost never works when the frequency is purely emotional. Okay, Dimension 10, the karma loop.
This is the cyclic nature of the universe. The source explains that this universe isn't linear. It is a closed circuit. The energy you send out eventually returns to you, the source.
So what goes around comes around, but explained with dimensions.
It's feedback. In dimension 10, the energy of an interaction actually feeds back into the initial day. It creates a loop. And this is critical. The source distinguishes between a trap and a spiral.
Break that down for me. What's the difference?
A negative loop creates a trap. Think of an outreach cycle or doom scrolling. You feed it, it feeds you, and you are stuck in a repeating moment. It's a flat circle. But a positive loop, gratitude, learning, connection, that creates ascension. It spirals upward. You aren't just repeating, you're actually growing.
And that upward spiral leads us to the final frontier. Dimension 11, collective consciousness.
The unified field. In physics, M-theory tries to unify all the forces. In this social physics, dimension 11 is where all the individual consciousnesses converge.
The source calls this the social universe.
Yes, and this is where the model gets a little dizzying. Dimension 11, the collective consciousness, is just the sum total of everyone's dimension 7.
Right. Dimension 7 was action, the likes and the shares.
Exactly. The social universe isn't some external God judging us. It is literally built brick by brick out of our own kinetic energy. If the collective consciousness feels toxic, if a platform feels like a burning dumpster fire, it's because we, the millions of users, are feeding millions of units of dumpster fire action into the engine every single second.
The platform is just the mirror.
Precisely. It just reflects the aggregate of who we are.
Okay, so we have the layout of the ship. We know the 11 dimensions. Now I want to talk about how to fly this thing. Part 4 of our deep dive is about the laws of physics in this system.
Right. The source material outlines specific rules of interaction. The first one is the conservation of karma.
Like the conservation of energy. Energy can't be created or destroyed.
Exactly the same. Karma acts the same way. It doesn't just disappear. It only transfers or changes form.
So if I vent my anger online, I feel better, right? I got it out of my system.
You might feel a temporary release, sure, but that waste didn't vanish. You just dumped your toxic waste into the collective river, which is dimension 8. It flows downstream. It transfers to someone else, or it gets stored in the collective memory of dimension 6, only to return to you later.
That makes me want to be very careful about what I type. It implies a closed ecosystem. Pollution in one area eventually poisons the water in another.
It does. There's no way to throw things to.
Now, another concept the source brings up is parallel universes. This was fun, the idea that different platforms like Instagram or LinkedIn act as parallel universes with their own natural laws.
It makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Think about the physics of LinkedIn versus the physics of TikTok.
Oh, totally. LinkedIn has incredibly high gravity.
It does. The atmospheric pressure is crushing.
You feel the weight of your boss, your ex-colleagues, your future employers all watching you. It changes how you move. You walk stiffer. You have to wear a suit in that universe.
Exactly. The atmospheric pressure of professional reputation is high there. Whereas TikTok, it's arguably a zero-gravity environment.
That's a bouncy castle.
It is. The laws of physics there encourage chaos. You can float, you can flip, you can do anything. But the source notes that while the local laws change, the universal laws dimensions 5, 6, and 7 are constant. You still need emotion and action to generate movement, no matter which planet you're on.
That's a great distinction. Now, we touched on this earlier, but I want to drill down on ascension versus collapse. The source is pretty specific about the formula for moving up or down these dimensions.
Yes, ascension is defined as high frequency, so joy or truth, plus positive memory, plus constructive action. That combination lets you move up dimensions, which just means you gain a greater perspective. You see the bigger picture of dimension 11.
And collapse.
Low frequency, like fear or hate, plus negative memory, plus destructive action. This causes you to fall back into what the source calls the illusion of separation. You get stuck in dimensions 3 and 4. You forget you're connected to the network. You just see me versus them.
The illusion of separation, that's deep. It's saying that trolling or fighting online literally degrades your reality down to its basest levels.
It traps you in the material world and the linear time trap. You lose access to the higher collective wisdom. You're just a rat in a maze at that point.
There's one more physics concept from the source I found really visceral. Brain leakage.
Ah, yes. In theoretical physics, brains, short for membranes, are these objects that string theory happens on, and leakage usually refers to gravity leaking between dimensions. Here, the source uses it to explain how high-dimensional things affect our low-dimensional bodies.
So how does dimension 5 emotion leak into dimension 1, my actual body?
Well, let me ask you this. Have you ever seen a notification pop up? Maybe a DM from someone you're avoiding, or a comment that starts with the word actually, and you physically flinch.
Oh, 100%. My stomach drops, my shoulders get tight before I've even unlocked the phone.
That is brain leakage. The information is purely digital. It's just pixels on a screen in dimensions 1 to 3. But the energy of it leaks through the membrane into your biology. It proves the dimensions aren't sealed off. The digital world has the power to hijack your adrenal glands in the physical world.
That's so true. It's a digital ghost physically haunting me.
And it affects dimension 4. Time, too. Have you ever gotten angry online and suddenly lost an hour?
Oh, instantly. I look up and it's dark outside.
That's leakage. The high-intensity frequency warped your perception of time. You experienced a time dilation caused by a karmic event.
This theory really holds up the more you poke at it. It explains so much of the why behind our digital exhaustion.
It does. It shifts the blame from the tool to the operator and the physics. The machine works perfectly. It just amplifies whatever you feed into it.
So let's bring this in for a landing. We've unpacked the 11 dimensions. We've looked at the physics. What does this all mean for the listener right now?
I think the synthesis here is actually pretty empowering. The source describes us as pilots. We are all navigating an 11-dimensional ship, and the controls of that ship are emotion, memory, and action.
So we aren't just passengers.
No. We tend to feel like passengers, like we're victims of the algorithm.
Yeah.
But if you accept this theory, you realize the karma loop is the engine, and you have your hand on the throttle.
We have the power to influence our own social gravity.
We do. By curating the frequencies we emit, what we post, what we comment, and also the frequencies we consume. Who we follow, what we linger on.
It's about conscious consumption and conscious creation. If you want a reality of joy, which is dimension 5, you have to perform actions in dimension 7 that align with that frequency.
And remember the conservation of karma. Every bit of positivity you put into the network doesn't disappear. It strengthens the collective structure. It stabilizes the hull of the ship for everyone else.
That is a much better way to look at it than just getting likes. But before we sign off, I know you found a really provocative thought in the source's extension ideas, something to leave us all thinking about.
Yes, this is a bit of a cliffhanger from the source material. It poses the question, if social media is a simulator for these higher dimensions, a training ground for collective consciousness, then where are we heading?
Okay.
The source discusses this idea of dimensional collapse. If we keep feeding these negative loops, outrage, fear, division, the theory suggests the dimensions actually compress. We lose the ability to see the network or the collective. We just see me versus you.
That sounds uncomfortably familiar.
It feels like the current state of the internet, doesn't it? A general collapse of perspective.
So the ascension part isn't about reaching nirvana or floating on a cloud. It's just about zooming out enough to realize we're all piloting the same ship.
Precisely. It's asking, are we just messy, clumsy toddlers destroying the playroom? Or are we actually learning to walk so we can build a bridge to a true, higher collective consciousness?
That is the ultimate question. Are we ascending or are we collapsing?
The source suggests the answer depends entirely on the karma loops we choose to close today.
Well, on that note, I'm going to go check my own loops. And I encourage you, the listener, to do the same. Before you scroll next, ask yourself, what frequency am I broadcasting?
And what reality are you voting for with your quantum units of action?
Exactly. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the 11 dimensions of social karma. We'll see you in the next loop.
Stay high frequency, everyone.